everyone. This is Abdullah, Konte, and Skylar Nelson with Win Sports, and we're here to discuss the tough season that the Commanders are having. It's week 11, I believe, and the team is off in Spain, in Madrid. International game, first game ever in Spain, and I'm not there. I'm not going this week. Skylar's not there. Are you in Spain? You're not in Spain, are you?
No, I'm not in Spain.
No, neither of us are in Spain. I was disappointed. I was supposed to go. Some things changed, and I have a 4-month-old, so I kind of wanted to make sure I could spend some time with him. It's been a lot of traveling, but for the most part, I am feeling some FOMO about not being there. And so basically, the Commanders, they got a 3-7 matchup with another 3-7 team. The Miami Dolphins, and it's been a rough year. How's things with you? How you been feeling about the team, and you have thoughts about how everything's gone, recently, since that game against the Lions?
Things have been pretty good on a personal level. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, of
But
course.
obviously, it kind of has been, kind of a reset moment, kind of a moment of reflection.
Hmm.
How far like they've come this season, and also to just time to think and reflect, look at where things went wrong. I've been looking at some highlights, of some past games, just kind of putting the pieces together on the map, as some people would say, just trying to figure out a direction, just reporting this team for the last year and a half. We talk about this all the time. It's like day versus night, right? So it's just like at the same time, just looking at the highlights and looking at how things are going to go, and then trying to preview where they're going to be at in Spain. I mean, right now, based on like what I'm seeing and hearing, seems like the guys are excited to be in Spain. They had a good practice today.
Hmm.
Seemed like some of the guys felt confident. So a lot of them wanted to be at the podium. So, it seemed exciting. There's definitely a lot to see and a lot to, reflect on. But, hopefully, you know, if they can get a win on Sunday, that would be great.
Yeah, it's like weird. They're in this weird spot because they're not eliminated. They still could get some momentum trying to get in, and try to make a run for the playoffs. But they're like at the end of the road, and it's really hard because it's clear that this team had a 9-day kind of experience from last year to this year. And last year, everything kind of went well. They had an easier schedule. Everything's kind of worked in the way that they wanted it to. Whereas this year, it's gone like the opposite, where everything has just been horrific. And I think one of the problems is that, yeah, the roster is just not where it needs to be. I think
Right.
that some of the older guys they got last year played well in that 1 year role. They lost some of those guys like De'Ami Brown, Jeremy Chin, Dante Fowler, and the
Hmm.
guys that they brought in, Dietrich Wise, Will Harris got hurt like pretty much immediately, and it's clear, this is one of the things that's obvious was that during the preseason, what did we see? We didn't see any of the starters really playing, and we saw a lot of
Right.
the backups playing, but what happened in those games? They were getting worked, right? Like, I mean, the first game of the year they got worked by New England. The second game of the year, the starters played for like the first like two series, and they looked great, and everybody's like, oh, they're gonna be good. And then the rest of the game was kind of like whatever, but we didn't care because it was like, hey, the starters look good, so why do
Yeah.
we care about the depth? And then that third game, they also looked horrible against the Ravens, right? And I think that shows the where the teams are at. The Ravens have a full developed team where their third string guys can play well enough that they're beating the crap out of these third string guys and potentially could there's depth that's needed in this league, right? And so I think that's what we're seeing overall is that this team has been decimated with injuries. So as much as we want to talk about scheme, and we'll get into the Joe Whitt thing, and even
Yeah.
Cliff, like I don't know how well Cliff's been calling games and stuff like that. Like
Yeah.
we can question how well the coordinators are doing, but at the biggest thing is that yeah, injuries do play a role, and the injuries have decimated this team
Yeah.
overall. So,
And also
um,
too,
yeah.
to add to that too, as well, as much as injuries have played a huge part in how the Commanders have been playing, the biggest thing that has also been criticized is player execution as well.
Sure.
And that's the biggest thing.
And apparently
As much
they keep saying that their practices are good, but they just not executing in the game. But like, yeah, I don't know.
most players look great in practice, but at the
Right?
same
Yeah.
time, it's like putting it out there in true gameplay, especially against one of the top NFC opponents that you're probably going to face this season, who you probably, if you were to make the playoffs,
Yeah.
going to see again.
Of course. Yeah.
Like, that is a problem. And it's like, obviously the Commanders, they're third in their division right now. Meanwhile, New York is last. But I
Yeah.
mean, that's what people expected anyway.
Hmm.
But at the same time, I'm sure everybody predicted for the Commanders to be higher than that. But even just going back to the injuries, one of the biggest things too that I'm hoping goes down in Spain is I'm hoping that this is really the time to regroup and really take a look at this, take a look at footage and focus on where this team is at right now, because it's not for Bobby Wagner to walk into that locker room and really not have much to say says a lot
Okay, well
when
then
he
I have
is
a
a
question
leader.
for you too because of that. And it's really like where do you think this team has a lot of fight left? And I'm not saying like they're hardworking people, and I think in the NFL,
Hmm.
this is your job, so you kind of have to show up every day because you're not just playing for this season; you're playing for a job opportunity the following seasons. But yeah, I mean, one, I'm not gonna lie, it would be really hard to have like the same like strong energy and motive. When you're not having that great of a season, it's been four straight games, five straight losses. I think four straight losing by
Yeah.
20 plus points or something like that.
Yeah.
Do you think that they still have the energy in the fight to, make a run? How do you feel about that?
I feel like the team I feel like a lot of the players have confidence. I feel like a lot of players can keep kind of the momentum going. It's all
Mm,
about can they do it together? And that's going to be the biggest thing is yes, there's going to be certain players who are going to have their own mindsets, but can it all gel together? I
yeah.
feel like when we're thinking about the hardest hits of this entire team, the biggest hits that I can see is really obviously yes, the wide receiver room not having Jaden out there is a problem. I
Hmm.
feel like that has affected the flow. Debo's had to step up more. Not having Luke on special teams and not having Luke in that room at all is a problem. The run game, teams have basically trained and designed themselves to shut down the run game at all costs. As much
Hmm.
as Bill was hyped in the beginning of the season, he's also still very young. So that's kind of just where they're at. As much as the Washington, I think, should utilize and focus on the run game, it's all about can the O line block enough to make that happen, but also are these guys executing as much as they can? I feel like Jeremy McNichols has stepped up a lot this season. C Rod, I want to see more of him. I feel like he's been good, but could be better. And then also too, just the defense. I think the defense has been the biggest weakness all season in terms
Hmm.
of just how the team has been going.
God,
You
how
know,
how
the,
wrong were we on the defense? Like, I mean, it's not even just us. Like, a lot of people
yeah,
in training camp felt much more positively about the defense overall, and we're just been wrong. And I think let's talk about the Joe Wynn thing because I'm not
yeah,
quite sure. I think there's some scheme stuff and there's some disconnect between last year and this year, and I think there's an element of like, some people wish that they would blitz more, and sometimes they feel like they just got put in bad positions. But there's also been a lot of just people who've gotten injured. I think my biggest thing is that some of the guys that played really well last year. Some of them have looked like they've regressed a little bit, or we expected like maybe a bigger jump. I know Johnny Newton's a guy that people were like, oh, they really thought more from him this year, and he hasn't really done too much. And now with the Da'ron Payne suspension, which we can talk about also,
yeah.
we would hope to see more from him in this capacity this week. But yeah, I mean, we were just really off on the defense. But do you think it's more because bad play or bad scheme or injuries? Like, I mean, where would you put the blame on that?
I would feel like okay, so I'll break this down, right?
Hmm.
So I do feel like injuries do play a part because not having Dorrance out there, not
Yeah.
having Dietrich Wise,
Yep.
that is kind of a low blow.
Yeah, of course.
because those were the guys that basically anchored the defense on the outsides. Now in terms of just, injuries, yes, that plays a part,
Yeah.
right? And but the thing is though, I've always questioned Marshawn's execution
Sure.
before the ACL tear.
Yeah.
I've always
100%.
questioned that because we saw little stints in camp, but it wasn't
Did.
large enough to be like,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
Same with Noah I. We saw the same from him. And it was the and I just feel like the execution just wasn't there. Especially I feel like Noah I was playing hard in preseason because he's been in the NFL for a minute and like we saw some good moments from him, which is fine. But at the same time, when we get into real NFL play, when starters and real secondaries are out there, I don't see the same guy that we saw in
Yeah,
preseason.
and I think that's it. It might have been. There's two things I want to discuss. Like the first thing is, yeah, like the Noah I thing. I thought he had a pretty good camp, but it was
Yeah.
also. I think we starting to see that we thought the corners in general had an amazing camp, and we also
Yeah,
knew that
same
the
with Mikey.
receivers.
Mikey was probably the best
Oh,
corner.
I thought
He's
Mikey
probably the
was gonna
best
have
corner
an
in camp.
all star type of year this year, and I think that Mikey's had like a. I'm curious to see how Mikey does being on the outside only, just like because now with all the injuries at corner position, I'm assuming they're gonna move him back outside and have maybe Noah I come back and play some
Yeah.
in the slot. But I thought Mikey hasn't had the season that I thought he was going to have based off training camp. I think people have been too harsh on him overall because I think that that's what happens when you play DB is that people want to bash you every time they see anybody catch a ball on you and they don't see other things. Like no one's complaining about the pass rush and maybe the guys just getting blocked, not doing their job. But if they see a pass being completed, it's like, oh, why'd that guy give it up? But I will say for Marshawn had a few practices that I was like, the toughest thing about when we're looking and doing our daily observations, it's kind of hard sometimes because you don't want to put somebody on blast and say something that isn't like maybe it's just like off day or something. But there was a couple times I was like, that wasn't a play that I would be excited about. It's something that like you would expect more from a number one type corner, and I think that that's kind of what happened during the season. We thought last year was his issues that he had in the season were more based upon him being injured, and then this year in training camp, I was kind of like, oh, we're going to see a dominant version of him. And there was a couple practices where he dominated also, so it was kind of like not quite sure what we were getting with him. But at the end of the day, it kind of just it shows that just didn't work. That trade didn't work. Marshawn, I don't know if Marshawn plays here again because the way his contract is, I mean, they owe him a bunch of money next year if they keep him, and if they cut him, there's no salary cap.
Yeah.
There's no dead money on the salary cap. So I don't know. I would just say that we got that wrong. I mean, we just point blank. I think everybody was pretty excited about the corners and the DBs, and I've heard other analysts
Yeah.
talk about this and radio personalities, but we just got that one wrong. That one was just
Yeah.
off, and
Plus,
I think
too,
that yeah. Go ahead.
not even to cut you off, but also, too, not even seeing a lot of Will Harris this season is also too another thing. And
Yeah, another.
he had a pretty good camp. I felt like he was a player that we were definitely going to see shine out this year, and it's unfortunate that he got injured. And I have seen him at practice, just working on basic movement, trying to get back to where he is. I feel like he's having some good days. He's not, based on what I see, obviously Dan Quinn said that he's getting back to where he needs to be. But at the same time, I am excited if he can come back. I will be excited to see him. But even just then, too, like, it's hard to put the blame with the defense because at the same time, I've seen all three factors. I've seen the injuries play a part. I've seen the execution part from players be an issue. But also, too, if players are not playing in their regular spots and not training in the spots that you're putting them in at game time, then it's like, how do you expect them to execute to their full potential?
Yeah, I think.
Like
Yeah,
the movement, like they had moved Frankie last game, Jordan last game, and they moved Mikey. So it was kind of like, I'm not going to say
It's
that's new for them, but it was weird. And I'm
it's
like,
just the team is kind of all over the place right now because now they're trying to just find where they can put people. There's so much, there's so many injuries that you're like not even sure who's actually playing and who's starting, and that's one thing that Joe Wood said in his, press conference that he had, or a little interview that he had the other day, which big on him for jumping in and having an interview after being demoted or whatever.
yeah,
But he mentioned, like, yeah, like, look, when it comes to injuries and seeing who's out on the field, like, when you think about the starting lineup, like, three of the ends are gone. Three of the, I think two or three of the corners are gone. Like, we didn't even talk about Trey Amos. Losing Trey Amos is
yeah,
huge
losing Trey
for
Amos
them,
was
this week. Like,
huge.
it's a really big, he was probably the one player on defense that, from a week to week perspective, I felt like was playing well every week.
Yeah,
So, yeah, I mean, like, look, injuries happen, man. There's a reason why I think that this team was good last year, and even though like people want to blame a lot of the injuries for Detroit on the reason why this Commander team won, no, I think this Commanders team was actually good last year, and I do think that the reason why it was such a big gap between Detroit and the Commanders that day was because they did have a
yeah,
lot of injuries on the defense, but. So injuries do happen. Injuries do affect the game. I think the biggest problem here is that we're not seeing any like progress between week
yeah,
to week. Like I think that first half of that Chiefs game, I was like, oh okay, like they're turning it on. They're like playing harder. They have some issues, but they're playing hard. I remember after leaving that game, even though they lost 28-7, I left there thinking this team is playing hard. They're struggling with injuries. They're trying to figure it out, but they're playing hard. I
yeah,
did not feel that in the Seahawks game. I did not feel that in the what's the most recent one, the Lions game. And was there
yeah,
a game in between there? I don't know I don't know if there was another game in between there, but I know those last two I did not feel that at all. I just felt like, man,
yeah,
they just I can't you can't explain how bad some of these situations look. I think last week they got this beat because the team was really good. That Seahawks game was actually
yeah,
really, really bad for them. Um,
yeah. I
but
mean,
yeah,
Seahawks came in. They were 6-3, right? They were
yeah,
six and
something like
three.
that. Yeah,
They were 6-3. Sam Darnold has been playing pretty well this season. They're
yeah, but
organized. They had it all together, and plus having Mike McDonald as a head coach, that just
they
turned everything around
no,
for
they
them.
have a lot of things going for them. But like they made Sam Darnold look like he was Tom Brady. I mean, he wasn't.
Yeah,
What I mean, it was, and the receivers. Like if we're talking about people missing receivers, they
yeah,
had JSN. I get that they had JSN, but they didn't have any other guys, and those other guys were balling at it. I mean, Horton is
yeah,
good; he's a rookie, but I think that that's where I know that this team is struggling with receivers, but there's been nothing to hold on to be like, hey, this is bad, but they're making progress in this direction. It just kind of feels like they're losing a lot of steam, and it's hard to have steam when you're 3-7 and you lost five straight. And so we'll see. I mean, I don't. This Miami team is not great either.
they're not.
So like if we talk about that matchup, they're not great either. The only thing that concerns me is they got speed on that team. Like Waddle can
Yeah,
move. A Chain is really good running back. Like Tua's okay. I don't think Tua's like an insanely good quarterback, but at the same time, he's good enough to if you're letting Darnold torch you, I think you could let Tua do the same thing, right?
yeah,
And with losing Amos, like you don't like who's playing corner right now. You got
yeah. That's
uh
gonna be a big one because also too like we've seen, especially with the injuries too, and just looking at the cornerbacks have also kind of had a presence too on special teams.
mhm.
Like seeing the returns from Noah actually I thought weren't
He
too
played pretty
bad.
good on returns. Yeah, he did
That's what I
good
was gonna
returning.
say. It
Yeah.
wasn't too bad. I mean, it was enough to fill the gap. But
Yeah.
at the same time, with Amos being out, he's in the game that he got injured in, he had two tackles, two
Mhm.
solo tackles in that game. But this all season long so far, he's had 17 solo tackles.
Yeah. Well,
And
he's not even like
he's second corner
you're talking
out.
about Trey Amos. Yeah, like
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm
even
talking about
like I
Trey
don't
Amos.
even really feel like even his tackling. It's not the biggest thing. The biggest thing is that he doesn't have a lot of stats because no one's throwing his way that much. Like he's
Yeah,
not
that
really
too.
being tested that much, right? Because I think he's been playing pretty well and having good coverage. But you're right. Like one, if no is still returning kicks, what if Noah gets hurt? Because right now it sounds like Noah is going to probably be starting because I think it's going to be Mikey and Jonathan Jones on the outside, and then Mike
Yeah.
or Noah in the slot. And you got Hamilton, who's like another backup, veteran player that they have playing some, but I don't know if they're calling anybody up. I honestly don't even know who's playing corner outside of those four. If they have another person outside of that, if Carlin Vigors is coming back, I don't know. Like I don't know
Yeah.
who's they're planning to call up, but essentially it's the defense is hurting, man. I mean, the defense is not, this is not a team that you want to play against when you're trying to get right. And I think
Yeah.
because of the fact that if the Dolphins have anything, it looks like they have some fast players that they can get the ball to. And
Yeah, and plus
um,
two, the defense, honestly, like I kind of put my eye on the injury report. So as of right now,
mhm,
we're talking week 11 right now.
mhm, mhm.
Um, I'm not gonna say this is the official injury report because some things will change, but this is kind of like where things are kind of at right now.
Mhm. Mhm.
So obviously, Traylon Burks is hurt
Oh
right
yeah, I
now.
forgot about Burks, who was somebody who was good to see playing well, but it's
Yeah,
kind of him getting hurt and it being a finger is like kind of just like tied to the fact that that's been the issue with him in the past already.
yeah.
So, anyways,
They're saying that this may change. Frankie's on this list too.
yeah,
Quan's on
he
this
had
list.
they played full, they had full
Yeah,
practices. Chris Rodriguez, Bobby,
yeah,
full. And then also you have Ben Sinnott and Jordan McGee. If Jordan
yeah.
McGee can't play too, that is a big problem.
If Jordan McGee is out and Ben
Yeah.
Sinnott, that's gonna be really
I
bad.
mean,
And
it's already like it's a pretty tough list that they have, man. I mean,
and
they
Ben
they
Sinnott, I was actually, to be honest, seeing him and John Bates this season has been kind of, I would say, a good little moment for the offense because when he scored that touchdown, I was like, it's about time.
yeah,
And seeing him get to his spot was like the thing for me. I was
yeah.
looking for that.
I don't know. I don't want to be a hater, but I just feel like the only
Yeah,
time,
go ahead and hate,
yeah, you're like
Abdullah.
go ahead and hate.
Go
No,
ahead and
I
hate.
just feel
That's his
like
usual,
no,
guys. It's his usual. Go
no,
ahead
I
and
just feel like
hate. Thank you.
I liked Ben Sinnott's film a lot when they drafted him. I thought it was a little high as a second rounder, but I was cool with it. But I feel like I've only seen Ben Sinnott make catches when like the game don't matter. Like he's not making clutch catches. He's not.
Yeah.
I'd like to see him playing early on because that touchdown catch that he had was like in my head, I'm like, who cares, man? The game's over. Like I'm sad. It was
You're
sad to
see,
say,
but
but
see,
it
this
was
is you
just
just answered your own
okay.
question,
What did
right?
I say?
So yes, you're like, oh, okay, like the only reason why you're hating right now is because Ben Sinnott, that touchdown came way late in the game.
Yeah, yeah.
That's why you're hating. But I digress. It is what
Wait,
it
but
is.
what did
That's
I answer?
fine.
I didn't answer anything. I mean, it makes
But at
sense.
the same time, you kind of just proved your own point. Like,
What
yes,
I put?
okay, you've seen stints from Ben Sinnott when the game doesn't matter, which was at the end. They were already losing. They weren't going to come back from that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, that's not a reason, though, to like hate, is what I'm
No, it
trying to tell
is.
you.
For me, it is. For me, it is like because you know why? I'm. He's a
No, because
second.
Abdullah was like,
No,
where was that
no.
in the beginning of the game?
But
He wasn't
honestly,
even
he's a
out
second
there.
round pick. He's a
I
second
mean,
round pick. Like this is my thing. If he's catching like when Ali Cajo makes plays, you're like, oh man, that's
yeah,
great. He
and
was
he's
an
out.
undrafted player and he's out too.
He
Yeah,
has a
exactly.
concussion.
But
He has a
but that's my
concussion.
thing. The same thing with Kane Madrano. Like Kane Madrano's been a healthy scratch, so we're like, okay, what? Why'd you guys draft these guys? Right? If they're not actually,
Yeah.
this is where we there is an element of kind of starting to question how good Adam Peters' picks have been because when you're using high level capital on people and they're not producing, like the people wanted to do the same thing with Luke McCaffrey because he was also a 3rd round pick, but he's starting to progress. So we're like,
He was
okay,
starting to progress,
we
and I
are,
was
and
like,
that's the reason why we're happy.
that
That's
was
why
my
people
good
are.
take this
No, you are.
season.
You
He
had
got
that. You
injured.
had that from jump. And the thing is, sometimes we don't give people patience. So I'm not saying I'm done with Ben Sinnott. I'm just
Abdullah
like,
never gives anybody patience though,
oh,
which is
I
why I
do. No, hold on,
question.
hold on. No, no,
When
no,
I
no. That's not true.
question,
That's not true. I
it
do.
wasn't until Luke was doing good, and so he was like, "Okay."
No, I didn't. But no, did I ever bash Luke? I never bashed Luke. I just said that you were always on him, and I was like, "We'll see." Because the thing I would say about how people were treating him during training camp was people were saying, "Why do we draft Luke? Luke is trash." And I was like, "Look, I get why you're frustrated about Luke because we
Yeah,
haven't seen him do much yet, but let's give him time." I did say that, but the you always were just like, "He's gonna be good. He's gonna be good." I wasn't willing to say he was gonna be good. I just wasn't willing to
because
say that
I
like
just
let's cut him or something. So people were talking about cutting him, and I was like,
yeah.
y'all wild.
Okay, I see what you're saying on that part because also too like just going back to like us like going back to like our preseason predictions and things of that sort.
Yeah.
Like even then, like yes, we had some good moments, and yeah, we were wrong about some stuff.
Hmm.
But at the same time, because again, nobody expected any of this to happen.
Yeah.
But also too, like when you talk about Adam Peters, the thing about it is yes, we kind of are at that point of questioning, which I understand for
Hmm.
guys like John Bates or Ben Sinnott or
Hmm. Not
Kane
even Bates.
Madrano.
Bates has a role. Bates plays
Well,
well.
Bates has a role, but
Sinnott
at the
is the
same
one that I'm
time,
like kind of like is
hmm
and it's not that I've lost patience with Sinnott because like I haven't.
hmm
I'm just starting to lose patience because when you are a 2nd round pick, where people are expecting you to be a guy who's catching passes throughout the game. I mean, I think Ben Sinnott has like 7 catches in his whole career, like since he's been starting. That's like, come on, man. That's not ideal for a 2nd round pick, in year
yeah,
2. So that's I think that's what I mean. It's like I get it, and I do think
and
as people
mhm.
watching this, not just media members but fans specifically, because I feel like fans are very outgoing about their feelings. You do have to give people some time. Like with Mikey, people want to bash Mikey because he's not having as good as year as he did last year, and I'm like, look, it goes up and down. Also, the narrative right now is that there's a lot of people on Twitter, which I think is just crazy, but a lot of people on Twitter are saying, oh, what's Drake May playing so well and the New England Patriots being 9-2, there are people saying that Adam Peters made a mistake by drafting Jaden Daniels and they should have went with Drake May. And I
That's
think that's
so
wild
stupid
because you
to
guys
me.
are like, did you guys completely forget about everything that happened last year? That's the kind of stuff that
Yeah,
is
but
actually
you know what
frustrating
though,
me. But
the Commanders fan base
yeah,
has gone through so much that they are on a no tolerance streak, and I understand that to a certain degree.
I
But at the same
mean,
time, some of these things are kind of outrageous. Like
no
that is
tolerance
definitely
is
outrageous.
crazy though. Like, you know what I mean? Because the fact of the matter is, this is the first time you guys that like the first time the Commanders fans have experienced a 12-win season in God knows how long.
But
The first time
Abdullah,
they
you're
went to the
talking
no,
about the
yeah.
first team in the NFL though to have a 5-game losing streak.
Yeah, things happen. Like I'm not
Like this,
saying,
but
well, no,
but you're
it's not the first
setting
team. No, first
records.
of all, it's not the first team to have a 5-game losing
No,
streak.
no,
People
no,
have
no,
that all
no,
the time.
no,
You're talking about by
no.
more than 20 points or something like that.
Yes, that's what I
Yeah,
mean.
yeah.
Yes.
No, I get
Okay,
that. I
I
get
didn't
that.
finish
No, you
because
didn't
we were
finish. No,
supposed
I
to move
feel
to
you.
the
I feel you.
conversation.
But I just yeah.
But I'm just saying, like, if like you setting records the wrong way, like I would be frustrated too. But at the same time, yes,
Yeah, but
some of these takes are outrageous.
frustrated to the point where you're starting to be like, yeah, you know what, Jaden's not very good actually. It's like, what? Like that's basically what these people are saying. And I'm like, did y'all? I get that Jaden didn't have a best year because he got hurt like 3 different times, and the team has been decimated with injuries, and there's been no
Hmm.
traction with the team at all. But are we gonna just disregard everything that he did last year? That's kind
Yeah.
of crazy to me. That's
Yeah. No.
that's all I'm saying. It's
I.
like people
Yeah.
just
No.
be
I
flip
understand
flopping, and
that.
I just can't. That doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
We got to let careers play out. So the same thing with Sinnott. Like I'm kind of like that touchdown, cool. I'm glad you got a touchdown. I also didn't love the Trump dance. So like, not a fan of that. Him and Amon-Ra St. Brown doing this stupid Trump dance. Not a fan.
Now I do. Speaking about that though,
Let's talk about it. Yeah, the whole
I
Amon-Ra Da'ron Payne thing. You want to talk about it?
I do apologize to Da'ron because I was kind of like, after he punched St. Brown, I was like, really? But then I was like, you know what? What triggered that? Because there's no way, like, I can't see these players being so frustrated. Although I
It's
thought
possible.
Javon, though, like, shoving the ref, I thought was kind of funny.
Well, yeah.
I didn't think
Look,
it was funny, but like just the way that things happened because I was so busy looking for what happened with Da'ron that all I saw was just Javon just shoving the ref. I was like,
yeah.
I'm trying to look for one thing
No,
at a
and
time.
they both got bashed by everybody on Twitter,
I
and
was
and
like,
and look, Duran, I don't think is Duran's like an angry person, but we have seen him fight Jonathan Allen on the sideline before, so it's not like we haven't
hmm,
seen him. Yeah, they were throwing blows like what 6 years
that
ago
was
on the sideline,
that
and
was
so
like
the thing is
fake.
though is that I just feel like we that's how football is a lot where you see the second punch and not the first, which is why they always try to tell you to keep your calm and keep your cool, and I get it, it's hard to do so. And yeah, it's just funny how it all worked out, especially because Amon Ra pretty much like denied it after the game, and then later
Yeah,
on when
which
they
I
got
also
the
don't like
no,
because I
I
was
think
like,
I lost respect for Amon Ra in a
yeah,
few ways, and it's not like I think he's a great player. I like the way he plays, but I just thought he just kind of gives instigating kind of vibes, like he tries to instigate stuff, and the fact that he even said he accidentally punched him. Come on,
that
man.
didn't look like
Come
no
on, bro.
accident. And
Come on,
but
bro.
what I appreciate though, but see, this is the problem that I have, and this is
Yeah.
kind of how media is moving. Everybody's so quick to be like, Da'ron punch St. Brown. Da'ron punch St. Brown. We got to look at because the TV didn't show what happened beforehand. That's what the issue was. If you go back and look at the full play, Amar Amara punched Da'ron, and then Da'ron punched him back, and he's the one that got suspended.
Yeah.
But then you're gonna go in the post game interviews and deny it, not say anything until Da'ron posted the footage. Then you're still over here like, oh, it was an accident, trying to
I,
play
and
it off.
and that's my thing. My thing is, I understand after the game if you just deny it because you're like, yo, they didn't see it, and I'm not about to tell on myself, so I'm just gonna deny it. But when you have the podcast after the footage comes out and you want to give us this narrative that I accidentally punched him, like, dog, come on, just own the shit
That's
at this point.
crazy.
You know,
That's
and so
crazy.
maybe, yeah, like, look, I don't care, man. It is what it is. Like, it sucks because that's just another element of the fact that, yo, Duran's not a player you want to not have in a
Absolutely,
game like this. So
he's one of their best
when we talk
D
about the best,
linemen.
yeah, we're talking about best players or people who've played well all season. Duran's in that category as well with Trey Amos. I feel like there hasn't been a lot of defensive players that have had great games every game. Duran's probably the closest to that. But yeah, I mean, look, it is what it is. I think it was, it sucks because I think that times you want to defend yourself. I think, like anybody's been with their parents and they're like, yo, somebody pushes you, you push them back, and I think sometimes it's hard to like keep your cool and walk away. But unfortunately, in the NFL, man, we've been watching games long enough to know that a lot of times they catch the second punch, not the first punch, right? So it sucks, but yeah, not really a fan of that situation, and I think they probably could have done something to correct it after they saw the additional footage of Amon Ra punching him. Maybe they could have
And see, this is the thing
removed
is,
the suspension, knowing that. But you know,
I just feel like too with the season, this season of the NFL has been so unpredicted. It's been such an unpredicted season.
yeah,
Like there's been a lot of mistakes throughout the league in terms of scoring or suspensions or calls.
yeah.
And it's like at some point, like it's gonna matter. And right now, for them, it matters even more because that's just another player to add to the list of players that are not playing.
Well,
And
yeah.
it's just like for no reason that I mean, punches are punches. I understand that, but I could see if we looked at the footage again and Da'Ron just punched St. Brown, then I'd be like, all right, okay, he's
You,
suspended.
you do gotta become more of that veteran and realize like you got to keep
Mhm.
your cool because of the fact that they need you more than
Yeah.
getting that punch out,
And
right?
that's what DQ
So
was saying to him of
yeah,
like, this stuff cannot happen. And I understand that to a certain degree.
It's
I
tough, man.
do.
It's just
It is
something that's
tough.
easy. It's easy to be like, don't punch back when they punched you right in the face because it could hurt you more. And it's like, I don't know, man. I'm one of these people who wants to defend myself, so I get it.
Yeah,
It
that's
just
why I'm
sucks,
like,
but
I can't.
yeah,
I
no, it's
can't be
tough.
mad at
It's
Da'ron, but also too, I do understand where
like if
DQ is
this is
coming from.
if this was my kid in the playground, I'd be like, yo, don't let that guy punch you, punch him, and like you know what I mean. Like I would say,
Yeah,
maybe that's bad advice, but at the same time,
Abdullah will have
like
a whole boxing match at the playground. He'd be like, "My son versus your son.
yeah, right. You know what I mean?
My
Like
son
make a
versus
whole
your
event
son."
out of
I'm be
it. Make
like,
a whole event
"What
out
you
of it.
get him into?"
Hey, man, my kid is crazy already. He might throw some good hands. I don't know. We'll see. No, I'm
That's
playing.
crazy.
Um,
No.
okay, let's talk about the last thing I want to talk about the game and just leading up to it is just look. Joe Whitt got demoted. Do we think that they're going to make it? It's going to make a difference with Dan Quinn calling plays.
I mean, I think we'll see. I think things will be better than they have been. I'm
Yeah,
not going to see we're going to see a drastic difference because to be honest, I mean, Dan Quinn, he's now a head coach, you know, second year with Washington.
yeah,
I do feel like, he's had head coaching. I mean, he's had defensive coaching experience.
yeah.
We've seen that with him throughout the league, especially in Dallas. I feel like he is more than capable of doing that. That's fine. But at the same time, and I know that it was hard for him, you know. I mean, him and Joe have been through so much together. I
Yeah.
knew that it was going to be hard for him to, sit Joe down and be like, hey, like, I'm calling the shots now. Like, you've called the shots. We brought you down. We're going to put you back upstairs, and I'm going to call the plays.
The better thing is he gonna fire him? You know, because if this
Yeah, because
continues, like people
that's been
already
a
kind of
question,
feel that,
too.
like like they might have to fire him and go with something different, and that just kind of sucks because I'm not quite sure. I don't think he's called great games this year, but I don't quite think the only reason why they haven't had success is because of the way he's calling games. It clearly the injuries are playing a role as
I
well, and I
understand that,
think
but
that
also too with injuries though, you gotta also at some point that can't be the only factor. I mean,
yeah, you're
look at
agreed.
Detroit.
No,
Detroit's
other
going through
people. Yeah,
injuries.
you're
There's so
right.
many
Like
other teams.
people have found
Baltimore,
ways to win
Detroit.
games. Look, this Miami team, and this is what I tweeted something out. Basically last week after the game, basically saying that the reason why this season sucks more than prior seasons with Rivera is because we thought that this team had passed these kind of performances, these bad performances, and this team was going to be a team that would always be in the hunt for a playoff spot. And the fact that like they had all that success last year, and then it's just been like kind of a dud this year, it hurts more for anybody who's been paying attention, anybody who's been watching. And for the most part, I think most people agree with that. But there was a guy who was just like, "Oh, yo, are you not watching? It's injuries. It's just injuries." And it's like, I'm not willing to just accept that injuries is the only reason why this team's not playing well because you saw a team like Miami who traded players away, beat a Buffalo Bills team that has a chance to win the Super Bowl this year. So
But
why is it
even
that this team can't beat anybody? They can't even compete with anybody in these last 5 weeks.
but
Like they
even with
really,
that in
yeah,
mind, and like I understand what you're saying because I agree. It's just
yeah,
I understand that, but at the same time too, I think what people are failing to realize is that this team is in a schedule right now that is based on their performance last year.
yeah. So
While
they're playing very
also,
good teams. Their schedule's been very hard. But go ahead.
yeah, while also trying to keep and replenish a relationship that they had built for the first time last year, where a lot of these teams have had time to kind of develop their stints. Teams that we've seen play well so far this season or at the top of their division, the top of their conference, didn't have the best of seasons last year. And it's like I understand that, but at the same time too, this Commanders team era is in their second year playing in this era together. It's not
Yeah,
that they're not talented. It's just
we got
they've
to give
never
them
gone
time.
through
This is
these
it's like
stints.
patience. Yeah, like I mean, this is the thing. Life is ups and downs, right? Like you have good days and then you have a bad day, and I think that like my biggest problem is that when this team has a bad year, it's just automatically like, yo, fire Joe Whitt. Adam Peters sucks at his job. Jaden's overrated. And it's like, yo,
Yeah.
can we like maybe let's see another year? I'm not willing to say the way I saw things happen last year. I don't think that it's blinding me for the fact that they've regressed. Yeah, I think they have regressed in ways, and I think that maybe this offseason they didn't work as hard because they felt like, hey, man, we got the formula ready. We just got to go and perform. And injuries affected that. Losing people affected that. Not having Terry out there. Like these are kind of things that affected them overall. And maybe they'll have a different attitude going into the offseason for next year. But I just don't believe that some of the guys that they think are not good anymore. I'm not quite there, and so we'll see. But my answer to the question of are they going to play better with DQ versus Joe Witt? I I don't know. I'm not convinced.
I'm
I'm
not
not really
completely convinced,
convinced.
but at the same time, I do feel like DQ knows right now specifically what needs to be done.
Sure.
But also too, I will admit like Spain is also a time, just like Dan Quinn said, he said that maybe going to Spain is not a bad idea.
Yeah.
The timing of it all kind of sucks with them being injured. The goal was to pop out in Spain, but at the same time, maybe Spain needs to be used as a time to recover and replenish what has been occurring.
Yeah,
You
if they
never
can get a
know.
win, it would be really big for them because they got a bye week next week, and it would at least give
Hmm.
them some momentum into getting rested up, and hopefully some guys like Noah Brown, Terry. There's a
Hmm.
potential possibility of Jaden. I don't really think that's going to happen, but there
Yeah, I don't
a lot of
either.
the players can actually come back to play into that Denver game, and maybe they'll have some luck going into that. But we'll see. I'm not quite so sure how they'll
Yeah.
do, and I think that that's where let's obviously talk about predictions for that game. Um,
Oh, and
you
real
know,
quick, before we
yeah,
go into predictions, I was gonna ask you one thing that we talk about with Adam Peters is we talk about Adam Peters with a lot of things, and we question. I'm not gonna say that we've questioned his authority. We think he's been a great general manager so far. The only thing is like, do you think that Adam Peters did his best with the D line
no,
in this sense?
no, I don't think that. I think that was probably the biggest flaw that he had in the offseason. I didn't
Mhm.
love the offseason. I don't know. We didn't have this podcast going. I was relatively vocal on Twitter, but not a ton. But
Mhm.
I thought that they were going to aggressively attack the offseason harder. And I think the two positions I really thought that they were going to bring somebody in that they would spend some decent money on was D line and corner. And they didn't
Mhm.
do either. Right. And corner, I kind of even understood because they made the trade with Marshawn the year prior. And they did bring Jonathan Jones, who had a lot of experience. So I think they were kind of
Mhm.
like, okay, we can kick the can a little bit down. But and then when they drafted Trey Amos, it was fine because that was my thing. After the offseason, I thought, oh, okay, well, come to the draft, they're going to, excuse me, after free agency, when it came to the draft, I was like, they didn't really attack D line or corner, which means they have to go D line or corner in free agency. And then come free agency, they go with Connerly. And I'm like, okay. They didn't trade back either, which I thought they would do, but no, they go with
Yeah.
Connerly. I'm like, okay, that's interesting because there's a decent amount of DNs at that range that they could have
Mhm.
maybe got. And then they go with Trey Amos in second. I'm like, okay, well, that's good value because Trey Amos was somebody who they thought would go into first. But
Yeah.
then after that, I think they had a break because they didn't have another pick in the third, but they just
Mhm.
never addressed it. And so at that point, I was like, what are they gonna do with D line? That's why when Wise got hurt in Green Bay, I said it. I was like, that's a big injury. And I think
Yeah.
most people are starting to say that, but that was a big injury at that time because it was not because Dietrich Wise is this all pro type player. It was just more about who's playing in like instead of him. And we've seen Jacob Martin play well. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? That was a good addition, but for the most part, I don't think he handled the D line acquisitions good enough. They needed to address edge, and they never really did. And Wise was a good pickup, but didn't last, and they didn't have anything outside of that. So no, yeah, I 100% think that if there was any mess up in AP's strategy over the offseason, the D line was, especially at edge, was the
Yeah.
biggest issue.
Well, I'm not gonna say that he made a mistake with Josh because we
Hmm.
did
No,
last
I'm not
season. We
either.
did
I'm
see
not
some
either.
gaps in the O line, but at the same time, I do kind of feel like, the D line was, I'm not going to say was neglected, but it was kind of the afterthought. And then they
Yeah.
had brought in Vaughn. But it's like I'm starting to really realize that, like, the D line, I'm not going to say it's getting worse. It's just, it can't just be Bobby and Frankie getting to their spots and then
Well,
everybody else
the
is
D line,
just.
technically the D line is getting worse, and not because of their play, but also because they're getting hurt. They don't have, like, who's playing.
Yeah.
Just like how we said, who's playing quarter,
Also,
who's
age is
playing
a
edge.
factor, unfortunately.
Yeah, and also they're getting older because the thing is that we love Bobby. Everybody loves Bobby. I think even the fans love
Hmm.
Bobby. But we can also, two things can be true. We could love Bobby and also say, well, he struggles a little bit on third down covering
Yeah.
running backs, right? And we saw that
Yeah.
Jordan McGee got in the game, and Jordan McGee looks promising, but, like, yeah, there's some running backs like no one's gonna really cover, like Bijan and Jameer Gibbs, all that kind of stuff. But there's people have flaws, and people are getting older, and I think that for how Bobby's second in the league in tackles, like, he's still insane.
Yeah.
I
Bobby's
still am a
still
big fan of Bobby. I still
killing
think
it.
that, yeah, for those who kind of say, oh, bench him, I'm like, who are you gonna put in front of Bobby that's
Yeah,
really
like
gonna help this
that's
team? Like,
like
y'all
that's my
wilding.
point too. And
Yeah.
this is why I brought this up because everybody's like complaining about Bobby, but it's like at the same time, who else is gonna really do
Yeah,
it?
but that's where that's the issue. If we're talking about anything, the issue is that depth is a problem. They need
Hmm.
more depth, and what's worrisome is that they have less picks again next year. Like, the
Yep.
last year they had the least amount of picks in the league. This year they also have the least amount of picks in the league. So that's the concern. And so maybe they trade back in the first round. There's some really good players at the top of the first round that I wish they can get. But if they have to trade back, that doesn't hurt them either, because then they can maybe accumulate more picks. But they really need to adjust the roster. And I think instead of these 1 year deals, they're going to have to spend money on some players that are going to be able to be here for like 3 to 4 years. Somebody
Yeah.
like Quay Walker. Quay Walker is a great linebacker playing in Green Bay. He might get. He might hit. They might test free agency. He's somebody that you want to get. You want to get some young guys that maybe they're gonna have to pay some money, but ultimately they gotta change the roster. The roster is just not where it needs to be, and people are getting hurt, whether it's just unlucky or they're older. But it's
Hmm.
just it's the team that, like, the team they got to put out there on Sunday. Hardworking guys, good players, but they're not playing at the level that they need. And so there needs to be an adjustment on the
Right.
roster, but as well as coaching. I do think there's an element of coaching that's not hitting, and we'll see if DQ makes a difference. I would be happy to see that. As much as, like, I understand that for those who want them to tank because they want to get a better draft pick, I get that. I get the argument. I'm just the type of guy who's like, you just try your hardest always and to see what happens. But if they can't beat this Miami team, I just don't know who they can beat. I honestly don't know. The only other team outside of that, like, maybe the Giants, and then maybe Philly at the end of the year, because they're probably going to be benching a lot of people for that last game.
Yeah.
I just, outside of that, I don't know. So look, let's do really quick prediction, score prediction.
I was about to
Um,
say, sorry
yeah,
guys for bringing that up, but we
yeah.
had to talk about
Score.
that
Yeah,
because
no, it's
that's
all
the
good. No,
big thing.
it's a good topic because it's basically the roster is an issue, and AP is. I think
Hmm.
AP's doing a good job. I just think that, like, I think this year is just, there's been a lot of reasons why this year didn't work out, and I think you can blame
Hmm.
it on coaching, AP, the players regressing, all of it. But I think that we can't deny that some of these things have actually gone well, and we're basing it off for 2 years, like you said. Like, let's base it off for 3 years. After next year, I think we'll have a more understanding of what this team is, what this organization is, and if they need to make changes, they need to make changes.
Yeah.
Score prediction for me. Um, Dang, I've been
Go
going
ahead and
back and
hate.
forth.
Go
I've
ahead
gone
and
back
hate.
and forth on this. I don't know if they're gonna have success stopping them on defense. Like, their offense
I'm
is
playing. I'm
good,
playing.
and, like, their offense is okay. I, you know what? I'm gonna take the Commanders. I am. I'm gonna take the Commanders 23-21. I just think that, like, they have nothing to lose, but they had to play hard. I don't know if they will. I think that this game worries me because of the fact that I don't know where their head's at.
Are
And
you
I'm just
taking the
hoping.
Commanders because I was hating on you or what?
No, I just think that there's a possibility that they wake up and play hard, because everybody wants to talk about them being not good, but, like, they've played some hard teams. You know, Seahawks are good, Lions are good, like Chiefs are good. They played 3 straight good teams. Like they've been playing good teams. Even the Bears, I don't think they're that good, and they should have beat the Bears. But the Bears are also doing well right now too. So maybe not only has it been the injuries, but they've also had a hard schedule. So Miami, I don't think Miami's that good. And I think that Miami might be viewed as the better team right now because they beat Buffalo last week every given Sunday. So I wouldn't be surprised if they win. I wouldn't be surprised if they lose either. But I'm going to take them. I'm taking them 23-21.
Okay. Let me think. Okay. I wanted to say 2017, but that sounds unrealistic.
Why is that unrealistic? That's a very common NFL
Because I
score.
feel like that they're gonna score. Both teams are gonna score more points than that. Um, I'm gonna go 26-21.
Who? You
Either
gotta pick a
way.
team. No, you gotta
Either
pick
way.
a team. You can't. It's
Okay.
not a prediction
20,
until you pick somebody.
20 I mean, not 26-21. I'm tripping. 27-21 Commanders.
Okay.
That's my take.
We'll see. I think we both think that this team is not great, but maybe not as bad as they look. Like I think the 3-7 looks
They're not
very
as
bad,
bad as they look like. People act like that they don't have talent. It's
and they also their
it's a
talent's
lot
really
of things
hurt.
that are being factored
It
in here.
I can't wait, and this
Yeah.
is like I'm not trying to skip this season, but I cannot wait for next season because I feel like there's just so many people who are already just trying to build a narrative that this team is so trash or something, and I don't think they're playing well. And I don't think this team, the way it is right now, is great. But I also think that they're trying to act like some of the players that played well last year are just garbage players, and I don't think that's true at all. And I think the narrative that people are saying that AP messed up with Jaden actually just infuriates me because I'm not
Hmm.
saying that the other players aren't playing well. Like Drake May is playing well. Caleb is playing better. Like Bo Nix has
Yeah.
played pretty up and down. He's played pretty well. I'm not saying there was a good quarterback class, but let's not knock Jaden because he's
Right.
gotten hurt. People want to be like, oh, he's injury prone. Like, man, come on. Anyways, last thing, we'll talk about. It's not going to be a long thing, but we're just mentioning the fact that Skylar's going to go to the Spirit game. Spirit has a huge game tomorrow. They're in the playoffs.
Yes.
Obviously we want to make
Semifinals.
sure it's very clear that we are not only, right now it's football season, so we've been covering the Commanders a lot, but we are going to be talking about Spirit and we want to talk about other teams as well, Wizards, Howard, Maryland, Georgetown, everything. So
Yep.
we would like to do these podcasts a little bit more, and we're going to implement some other people as well. I'm much more of a football head, but we have some other people on our staff that know basketball even more.
Yep.
And Skylar's going to be, the jack of all trades. She'll talk about everything, right? So
Yes.
essentially, we just want to make sure that we mention that. Skylar, are you excited about the game tomorrow, the Spirit game?
Yeah, no, I'm excited. Like the Spirit crowd, just everything going on. Like I love the Spirit. I feel like
Hmm.
that they bring the energy every time.
You're a really good
Audi
watch.
Field.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always have fans, DM me, text me about Audi Field and just their experiences and just to see that, the Spirit play a huge role, especially not just a women's team, but also to bringing football in the sense everybody wants to say soccer, but bringing
Yeah.
football
Hmm.
in the mix, like everybody being able to see that and to be able to feel that, for that to be one of the top teams in DC is amazing to me.
Yeah,
I'm
and they're
excited.
good, man. They're good, and yeah, the vibes at Audi Field for a Spirit game. If you haven't gone, you should go. Like it might be a little too
Mhm.
late to get a ticket for this game, but they're a lot of fun, and the energy is good vibes.
Yep.
And yeah, no, look, I can't wait. They had a crazy game last week that went into PKs, but
Yep.
we're hoping that they can reduce the anxiety for everybody and just get the win. And but yeah, it is one of those games that you definitely want to, one of those teams that you definitely want to check out. So but
Yeah.
basically that's it for us. We just wanted to talk a little bit about what's going on with the team, what's going on with Win Sports. We're developing a website, so we'll be able to get you better content sooner. Make sure you check out Skylar Stories on the Informer website for now. And thank you everybody for tuning in, and we'll talk to you on the next one.